What if I told you that one of the most powerful forces in human history isn't steel, gunpowder, or gold, but a root vegetable? Not exactly the kind of thing you expect to start revolutions, topple empires, or save millions of lives, yet the potato has done all of that, and more. Picture this. You're at the dinner table, pushing aside a pile of mashed potatoes to get to the real food. You don't think twice about it. But if you lived just a few hundred years ago, that humble mash might have been the difference between life and death for entire nations. It started high in the Andes, growing in tough, rocky soil where little else could survive. Then it made a journey across oceans, slipped quietly into European fields, and ended up changing the fate of entire nations. This is the story of how a simple potato went from mountain crop to a force that shaped economies, fueled revolutions, and in some cases decided who lived and who didn't. From the Andes to the Old World. Long before the potato found its way to European tables, it was thriving in one of the toughest environments on Earth, the Andes Mountains. High up, where the air is thin and the nights can freeze even in summer, not many crops could survive. But potatoes could. For the Inca and other Andean civilizations, potatoes weren't just food, they were part of the culture. Farmers planted them in terraces carved into the mountainsides, using careful irrigation systems to make the most of melting snow and rainwater. They had potatoes for every altitude and taste tiny, finger-sized ones, big starchy ones for boiling, waxy ones perfect for stews. In fact, there are still more than 3,000 varieties in Peru today. They were also innovators in storage. One of their oldest methods, chuño, involved leaving potatoes outside overnight to freeze in the cold mountain air. Then, during the day, the sun would thaw them slightly. Repeated freezing and thawing over several days removed the water content, and trampling by foot helped peel the skins. The result was a light, dry potato that could last for years without spoiling essential for surviving bad harvests or feeding troops on long journeys. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 1502, they took note of this strange, resilient crop. Alongside gold, silver, and other treasures, they carried potatoes back across the Atlantic. At first, though, Europe wasn't impressed. The potato was alien, it grew underground, it was related to poisonous plants like nightshade, and in some places, people blamed it for illnesses. In France, it was even banned for human consumption for a time. Still, it had a way of sneaking into farming systems. First, it was fed to animals. Then, during food shortages, people tried it themselves and realized it was filling, tasty, and surprisingly versatile. Over time, resistance faded, and the potato began its quiet takeover of European fields. The potato boom. By the 18th century, the potato had moved from being a strange newcomer to a crop that Europe couldn't ignore. Wars, harsh winters, and unstable grain harvests had made food shortages a constant threat. Governments and landowners needed something reliable, and the potato fit the bill. Some leaders even launched public campaigns to get people to grow and eat them. Frederick the Great of Prussia is one of the most famous examples. He ordered potatoes to be planted on royal land, then placed guards around the fields. The guards were instructed not to be too strict. The idea was to make the crop look valuable enough for peasants to steal and plant themselves. In France, Antoine-Augustin Parmentier, a pharmacist and potato champion, held elaborate potato-themed dinners for influential guests, serving potato soup, potato bread, and even potato flowers as decoration. His guests included Benjamin Franklin and members of the French royal family. And slowly, public opinion began to shift. The potato's appeal wasn't just about taste, it was about survival. An acre of potatoes could feed far more people than an acre of wheat or rye. And the yield was more dependable in poor soil or unpredictable weather. Potatoes also had the advantage of growing underground, which made them less likely to be destroyed by marching armies during wartime, unlike fields of grain. Nutritionally, they were a quiet powerhouse. Packed with carbohydrates for energy, potassium for muscle function, and vitamin C to prevent scurvy, they became a crucial part of the diet for soldiers, sailors, and workers. In fact, during the Napoleonic Wars, French soldiers relied heavily on potatoes as part of their rations. An estimated 1 million people died during the famine, and another million emigrated, mostly to North America. The population of Ireland fell by about 25% and would never return to pre-famine levels. The event left deep scars. not just in the landscape, but in the national memory, shaping politics, land ownership, and Ireland's relationship with Britain for generations. The story of the potato isn't just about farming or food, it's about how something small can shape the course of nations. It reminds us that history doesn't only turn on battles and inventions. Sometimes it hinges on what's growing in the ground. A root pulled from Andean soil ended up fueling Europe's population growth, powering industrial expansion, and influencing migration patterns across the world. It saved millions from starvation in some places, and caused it in others. It became a tool of political strategy, a symbol of survival, and in moments of crisis, a stark reminder of our dependence on fragile systems. It's easy to think history is driven by big, obvious forces, but this story asks a quieter question. What are we overlooking today that might be shaping the future just as much? A new technology? A shift in climate? Or maybe, just maybe, the next potato is already here, hiding in plain sight?